Hello, everybody. This is Hal Raines, and I'm here with my co-host, Eileen Imperatrice, and our guest artist. And I guess I need to tell you who I am, or who we are, Artful TV. So, Amy, give us a shout out.
Hi.
And so, Eileen, I'm going to hand this off to you so you can show us what you have for us to see this week.
All right. Thanks, Hal. Well, this week I'm sharing with you 5 pieces from my series called Letters to Myself. And each of these pieces you'll see have words actually written on the canvas. And it's dealing with the idea of integrating actual words with paintings. I have a lot of friends who are authors and writers and poets, and I've always loved words. So it was a natural inclination for me to, at some point, create artwork that actually had words in the paintings too. So we'll see with each piece that there's some words that I've said some things about, but then also the general idea of the painting comes across in the imagery as well. So let's start with the first piece. This is called Coming Back to Life. And this one in particular, I like to think relates to even today, because we're coming out of, and hopefully coming out of, this pandemic. And we're seeing a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel with everyone getting vaccinated. And hopefully we'll get a handle on this whole COVID-19 disease. So right now, I feel like this really relates to how we're trying to come back into our lives that we've had before, or hopefully a little bit better, by the way that we've gone through this pandemic. And the original piece itself, I wrote relating to relationships and going through challenges as you are evolving in your relationship. So even though there are certain things that may delay how you relate to each other, you can come back to another time where you're feeling good about each other again. So it's coming back to life after going through a challenging situation. All right, well, I'll go on to the next one. This one is called Am I Pretending to Be Something I'm Not? And it relates specifically to dealing in social situations when we sometimes have to put on masks for what we're actually going through in our own personal lives. Sometimes we might have health situations or relationships with family or friends that might not be going as well. And we're not necessarily in a very happy mindset, but we have to go out and socialize for whatever reason, whether it's business or other things. And so we tend to sometimes have to put on a mask of being happy when we're not necessarily completely happy. But as we know, I think everybody to varying degrees has to do this from time to time. But the bigger issue, I think, for me and what I wrote into this is that it doesn't change who I am. I am genuinely a pretty honest person about things that I'm going through. I share that a lot on social media, mainly because I want people to understand what it's like going through different health challenges, especially, and that, you know, life isn't all rosy, but that we still can interact with each other in a happy way, and we can still be our true selves, as long as it doesn't become a mask that takes over our entire being. And so that's really, you know, what this piece is about. I'm glad you like it.
I think in some ways we're true to ourselves inside because we know who we are inside, yet we all pretend. And I think that this really does express, your imagery expresses that.
All right, well, let's go on to the next one. It's called Giving Into Love. And this is specifically about relationships, specifically when you're in a loving relationship. Now, that can be family, spouse, significant other of any kind, or friends. And really giving into a relationship means that you have to be fully aware that it's not always going to be perfect. There are going to be challenges along the way. And when that happens, you hope that you can come back and still continue a relationship with that person. And so being able to have a full relationship with anyone really means that you have to be prepared that certain things might not go as you hope they would. And giving into love really means giving into knowing that all that can happen and still wanting to be committed to that person. You know, it's a real challenge. I mean, certainly we've all gone through situations where it just doesn't work out. And maybe there's somebody who's really toxic and we have to just let them go in our lives because it doesn't really work for either one of us. But hopefully, in most situations, you give into a relationship with someone and it's worth it, even with the challenges. And so it's just being more aware of the fact that those kinds of things can happen, but the only way you're ever going to feel full love with somebody is if you really are giving into that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
All right.
Again, your composition is, you've really got composition down. The chairs embody the message in so many ways, and the imagery, it seems to express what the words say.
Even looking at your corner, you know what, and Amy already brought up the chairs, but it's very much like a flower, you know. You've got the roots that are the legs, and then you've got the stems about halfway up the wall. And then there could be a clock indicating, you know, time, time to claim, time to work, time to rethink, whatever. But it's all right there. And it's again, you just knock me out the way you think.
I
Geez,
love the way you're
pottery
saying
doesn't
that.
have that. You know, might be able to
Yeah, that's
capture that
great.
with a rock, but not with pottery. Good work.
So then we'll go on to the next piece. This one is called My Hands Were Tied. And I definitely, like I said, try to be very honest in everything that I'm going through and what I put into my work. My husband is very open about being a recovering alcoholic. And of course, in our relationship, we were married for like 11 and a half years before he got recovery. And since then, of course, we both went through therapy with each other apart and through our own different groups, support groups. And so through that whole process leading into his choosing to go into recovery, of course, I was debating whether or not this was worth it. And the difficulty with anybody who's in a situation where you're seeing someone self-destruct is feeling completely helpless. And in this piece, My Hands Were Tied is really, realizing that although, like I say in the words there, I told how I felt and I said the things that I didn't like, and I wanted to make sure that he knew I was aware of what was going on, I know and I knew that I cannot change his mind for him. He had to decide for himself whether he was going to seek recovery or not. And he's been sober now for 18 plus years. So, it's an everyday thing, as we know. And so I've certainly appreciated being able to come to a terms of understanding that I had to put my trust in that he was going to choose what was best for him, that would hopefully be best for us. But certainly it's a very difficult situation for anybody who goes through anything. You cannot change the other person. They have to choose it for themselves. And that's where your
Yeah.
hands are tied, but you certainly hope for the best.
Well, they're tied, but they're also bound together with what could easily be interpreted as a cross. So maybe somewhere in the background that's about repentance and the blood of Christ saving one, you know, and
Ah,
turning to the spiritual entity, you know, to help one make those choices. So there's a lot of layers in the piece. Good
thank you.
stuff.
I like how you, it's powerful how you put yourself out there through your artwork, and that you allow yourself to be vulnerable and to share yourself, not only through your imagery, but also the background story go with it. I've always admired that, and sharing this story makes a powerful piece even more powerful.
Yeah.
And now the final piece I'll show you today is called What is My Worth? And this one comes directly from a conversation I had with a couple of relatives that made it very clear to me that they thought my only value in this world was to get married and have kids. And why am I doing this art thing? It's wasting my time. I should be producing children. And so that's why the figure has the giant circle in the center and the big X across, because I chose a different path. And I don't feel that is any less worthy. And so the words that I put on there are first mimicking the questioning that they had done of putting value on me based on what they think I should be. And then just saying that that's not going to change my own perception of myself, because I know I'm doing what I need to do, and the path that I've chosen, I think, is a valuable one. And certainly now, once my husband had polycystic kidney disease and needed a transplant, and then I having cancer this last year, I think it's a good thing we chose not to actually have children, because then we would have been passing on that to another generation, which we would have hated to have seen, and, you know, put somebody else through this. So, you know, for everything that it's worth, I think we chose right, and I feel good about where I am in my life and certainly in my art career. And so that's where I fall, declaring my own worth. Now, again, these pieces were, let me see, what year were they done? 2008, I think, or something like that. So it was quite a few years ago, but it's, again, transcends time, because I think we all have to at different times reevaluate what people are putting on us and what we feel about ourselves. So that's where it comes from.
Wow. Your pieces almost always are political, even if you don't. It's there. It's just not even very far. You just scratch the surface a little bit, and then, boy, there's politics that'll jump out and hit you in the head. You know, and I like that. You know, I really do.
Thanks.
Discussion,
Thanks.
yeah, that's what it's about. So, thank you. Beautiful work, always.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Jeez,
you.
always. So,
All right, well, let's
okay, so
take a look at your work, Hal. I know you have some great pottery that you're always working on, and we love to watch your videos because they show the work in progress, which is really interesting to see. So let's take a look at what you have this week.
okay, well, it is a work. Everything you do with pottery is very much like painting. And that being said, let's just take a look. Hello, everybody. This is Hal Raines from ArtfulTV. So we have 12 pounds of speckle buff. Turn it into a bowl, and you can see as it's drying, it's becoming wobbly. So what happens when a wobbly bowl and a potter get together? We do what we can to work out the wobble. You know, with compressing the edges, compressing the middle, working up and down the walls. It's all about making it more solid to support the weight of the pot. So everything you do all along the way is about getting that pot to be more stable. The tool I'm using there is a Euclid tool from Clay Planet. A lot of potters use mirrors so they can see the other side of the pot, or they can actually see the profile when they're working. I probably should do that. Gosh, I just love the underglaze. The way it offsets all the work that you've done with it. It's just so much fun to use. Underglazes can do a lot for your work in terms of accenting and making things pop. I tend to use them a lot like watercolor, where I thin them down and I'll blend colors together. Here I'm just using the yellow, speedball yellow, and then brush it out and then thin it with the sponge. Then I'll go for another color, which here I've got the red, and then I'll go with some white, and then I'll finish it off with some purple. The thing that's so wonderful about the underglazes, I mean, there's so many wonderful things about it, but if you blend the colors together, if you really do look at it as a living palette that you can add colors and subtract, you can just do so many things. So you can see the result at this point of that knurling tool, Euclid knurling tool. And I'm telling you, the way you layer that underglaze on, it just really picks it up and showcases the work that you've done there. I've done just about as much as I can do here. The next thing I'll do is cut that bowl off of the bat, and using a wire, there you go, right there. And then you're careful to take them off, take both bats, and you'll just flip it. It's a little scary doing it, but it's not real tough after you've done it a few times. And blast it a little bit. This was when it was cooler. And then you start to shave them. Now that tool is a good one. That's made by Phil Paberka from Bison Tools. There I'm tapping the bottom. And you wouldn't know to do this initially, but after you've been a potter a little while and you've carved through a couple of the bottoms, you'll start to understand the way they sound. If you were playing an instrument, like say a banjo, and you tap on the skin, there's a certain pitch. Well, with pots, it's the same way. If something is too heavy, it's kind of a dull thud rather than a higher pitch. So we're going to do a little work on the bottom. It's really a matter of compressing the piece again. One thing you may not know is just a heavy-duty plastic bag works really good to give your piece a burnishing. And I'm going to use a rib to bounce that and get a flower-looking design right across the bottom. A lot of people seem to have a signature color or a signature look. My friends who have been with me through this pottery process say that I use purple a lot. And I do linear things a lot. I think my pieces look like they all belong together. It's really important to embrace your style, your voice. I mean, your work should look like you. One of the best ways to find out what your style is to go places, to workshops, and share your creativity with others. There's a clay congress that happens online. It's 5 days, non-stop pottery, and it's $59. I mean, $59. You can have unlimited access to people that are really well known. So at this point, I'm just clay doodling. You can see those are cake decorating tips. I've used a cheese cutter, a melon baller, a scrubby brush. One thing I'll tell you for sure. When you become a potter, you never go to a yard sale to look at the same stuff. There's always something about the little trinkets that you can pick up for very little money that do just the remarkable things to your pieces. Oh, it's kind of funny too, because they become like fingerprints. These little odd yard sale tools that you find are things you've used to give life to clay. Wow. And if you should decide you want to be a potter, we happen to have 4 shops in Fresno now. 4! That's fantastic. I highly encourage you to go and invest in your clay tools. And it's fun.
That was
Those are wonderful. I always
Thank you.
notice the tools as well. I think I have the same kind of thought as you, because I usually go to hardware stores and just look up and down the aisles and find unusual things to make textures with and paintings, and unusual pencils to work with or something. That's how I came up upon the China marker. So there's always a great fun in finding unusual tools. Now in this video, I noticed you were more towards the end of working on the pot, and so it was at the point where you're kind of just shaving off things with tools and making. I love the clay doodling idea. That's really fun. But at the very beginning, is it more hands-on, and then as you have the pot form, then you use more tools?
Yeah, typically the one that's for the next show. I threw that pot and I worked like a crazy person to get the shape. So it's almost like a tulip. It has it's very deeply folded internally, and then it opens up like a flower. So it's an interesting pot, and I called it a fertility jug or a fertility vessel because on the inside it's so bulbous it looks like breasts. But anyway, that's another story for next time. But once I get the shape and then I paint the shape, then I typically carve around it and through it and stuff like that. So.
All right, well now I think, unless we have any more questions for Hal, I think we'll move on to you, Amy, and hear your wonderful things. But let me first say a few things to introduce Amy. Amy Kohl has been an artist all her life. She's also been a good friend of mine for many of those. But then it was in 2002, she walked into Chris Sorensen's studio, downtown Fresno, and decided to focus on sculpture. And for 17 years, until May 2020, she was the driving force in curating and participating in shows at Chris Sorensen's studio. Now, working from her home studio, she continues creating with stone, metal, wood, and found objects. She's held positions within the California Sculptors Symposium and was awarded a full scholarship to the Northwest Stone Sculptors Association Symposium in Washington 2019, and continuing with them as well. She also teaches 3D design and sculpture at Fresno High School. Welcome, Amy. We're so looking forward to seeing all your work.
Thank
Yay.
you. And yeah, thank you very much. I did leave Sorensen Studios during COVID. It was a variety of things. I needed the ability to be able to work at home. And it was a hard decision. I really enjoyed the camaraderie there and learned a lot from working that large group situation. Anyhow, I do enjoy still collaborating with Chris, and I learned a lot about metal and then eventually stone and mixing the media. So I'd love to share some images with you. And great. This is a piece that it's actually marble. And it was a piece that was given to me by a friend. I've started working on a new cloud series, and the next image will give you another angle. This is what the raw piece looked like. Those are tools that I used with this piece. And as you can see, as it progresses, these are the tools. Some of them, the one that's made out of rebar was handmade for me. And the two hammers are from a company called Holden in Vermont, a place I've gotten to visit. And the piece progressed, and as you'll see in the next picture, I wanted to make it look like a cloud. This is the new series that I'm working on, taking something hard like a stone and having it become something light like a cloud. Unfortunately, last night while I was working on this piece, there was a fracture line crack in it and part of it broke off. So I will be exploring, I will be exploring the next step. I have some ideas, and I'm actually looking forward to it. It's almost like I was exploring the idea of using silver within the clouds, like a silver lining. And after that broke, I thought, ooh, I could use silver wire almost and sew it together almost like stitches. So adding in that mixed media component, it's that top third that fell off about.
Oh no.
It's an opportunity. This is another piece that I had made. It's a smaller cloud. This is made out of an alabaster stone, which is easier to work. That one would fit in the palm of your hand. And the scale is different because, as you can see in this picture, you don't have a lot of background to really go with it. And then there's another view of it. The light just shines through. And I like that. Even though it's a hard stone, I tried to make it look airy and have some flowy form to it. I like to go with the profile of the piece, looking at as you go around, working the piece as a whole. And I also use sandpaper when I get to the end. I do use scrapers, which are kind of like chisels on it in a variety of ways also. It takes a lot of patience. This was one of my first pieces, and I really looked at the form on this. I'm not sure if you can tell, there is some texture by the two circles, and then obviously there's texture with the nails. And I looked at mixing the stone and the wood and the metal in this one. Mm-hmm. This is a piece that I had done. The three shells are from Costa Rica. Again, it's mixed media in some ways. The shells were found objects. And I really wanted to go for the curves in the form. The piece does go back. Again, with sculpture, you need to see more than one view usually. I didn't include more than one on this, but I went for a very fluid kind of form.
Looks very sensual, yeah.
Thank you. This was my spot at Sorensen Studio. The piece in front is a piece of marble. from Colorado, and that's on a piece of wood. And then the orange and black piece behind it is calcite. But as you can see, I work in a variety of mediums, not only the stone and the metal, but I put them together. And then in the back, there's actually a piece that has old wine bottles on it. It was a tree that I made. I did do a piece last May. We were on kind of on lockdown. It was Mother's Day, and this is a detail of it. The next picture gives a bigger image, and I made that at next to the river up past Pine Flat, and it's called Nest. I'm a single mom. My son is now in college, and my nest is empty.
Also, I have to say that alabaster piece with the light coming through it, that is gorgeous. That looks like a cloud to me with the light coming through from the sunlight or something, you know. It's so, I don't know, it's just, it really raises your spirits because it's something that seems so alive. And I think that's something that everybody in art tries to do with their pieces, make it feel like there's life breathing through it. And I think especially with your sculpture, what I've always really enjoyed is you're bringing, again, your own life to it. And so it's beautiful.
Thank you.
It looked like a bunny
I'm working on a. Thank you. I'm working on a series of clouds. I'm sorry.
Did you see the ears? I saw little bunny ears. You know, just like here's his little body, and there was these little bunny ears sticking out, kind of like down here. Really cute.
Well, think about it. When you look at clouds, don't you see different images in them?
Oh yeah,
exactly.
And that's what I'm going for. I have a pile of alabaster and various marbles in different colors. I'm looking forward to it.
That's wonderful.
Me too.
Well, you keep experimenting with things that you're working on, and we'll look forward to seeing them. I really appreciate you being with us here today and sharing everything that you did. It was wonderful to see the process of the stone changing into something else. And I'm amazed at your patience and the tools to turn these slabs of stone into, you know, something amazing. And so I really appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Thank you. And I loved seeing both of your series and your work. Thank you for sharing with me today.
Well, thanks. And again, we are so glad that Amy could join us today and share her work. And Hal, always, your pottery is beautiful. So we are really glad that all of you out there could join us to watch this show and see the art that's being made. And we hope that you'll join us again next time for another episode of Artful TV. Until then.
Bye.
Bye, guys.